Whether to have a Safe Cities ordinance in Greenfield has been a charged issue there for months. First proposed in the summer, it was passed by the council, but the measure was challenged and placed on hold. Then it was passed again, only to be vetoed by the mayor. Finally, it was made a citizens petition question and approved in November. I spoke with Javier Luengo Garrido, the ACLU Massachusetts Immigrant Protection Project coordinator, about Greenfield's debate and the upsurge in these ordinances across the region.
We were talking recently. We have an incredible team. Jeff Napolitano from the Resistance Center, Rachel Gordon, Catherine Golub, leaders and organizers in Greenfield. We were not surprised at the outcome. We were in some way surprised that it was going to take so many votes. You know, we passed it the first time. After that, got recalled. After that, we passed it again, got vetoed. We overrode the veto, and at the end, because of this sort of right-wing group was able to get enough signatures in it to the ballot, we went to the ballot and we won. If at the beginning of this process you had asked me if I thought that this was going to happen, no, I wouldn't say that.
Because you're talking from July
Yes.
until very recently. So that was a long time for this issue to have been taken up. And then when it was approved, it was passed by 634 votes. That's not a giant vote margin. And even Rachel Gordon, who was one of those local organizers who worked with you and the Yes on 2 group to get this passed, she said that she was disappointed, you know, obviously pleased that it passed, but disappointed, and said this to the Greenfield Recorder: "It's people's basic civil liberties that are on the ballot. And I would have hoped that Greenfield would have voted overwhelmingly."
Yes.
What do you think about that?
You know, as ACLU, we are again sending basic provisions to defend minorities to the ballot. The majority shall not rule and tell the minority what to do or what they cannot do. That's fundamental. And I think that's from the place where Rachel is coming from. I also feel that, you know, Rachel, it's an incredible organizer. She's a Greenfield resident. She worked so hard with Catherine on this. And I feel that that phrase is also has some content of frustration as a Greenfield resident, as hoping to do better. And I do feel that we were hoping the people from Greenfield to do better, to have a bigger margin. But to be honest with you, at this point, I would take the 56% against 44 that we ended up winning with.
Yeah. And so just for people who may not have been following this very closely, when we look at safe cities ordinances, such as the one that was passed in Greenfield, basically the idea is to limit the power that city employees have in relaying information to ICE, correct?
Yeah, I mean, what we do, we try to make the city policy, the municipality's policy, the fact that no person working for the city, no official of the city should ask for immigration status. If I'm driving in Springfield, places where we have passed, if I'm driving and I made a mistake and I ran a red light,
yep.
Yeah, I should get a ticket, absolutely. But I cannot comprehend, and there is no way that my immigration status is relevant to that. So that's what we're looking for, and that's literally what we do. The reality is that one of the things that we have to do constantly is restate. This does not violate any federal or state law. This is shaping policy made by the city. And honestly, at the end of the day, the point is the city is not breaking the law because you cannot share what you don't have. If you don't collect it, it's not that you're not willing to share it. It's that we don't collect it.
And really, outside of this argument, where would it be appropriate for, in this instance, let's use your example where a police officer makes a traffic stop, a legal traffic stop, you ran a red light, you should get a ticket. But in what instance would it be appropriate for that officer to say, what's your immigration status?
Our policy in how we work on this is that no police department, no city department should be doing the federal enforcement agency work, right? There is no way. There is an immigration system. There are departments in immigration that they do their work at a federal level. We should not even think that local municipalities have to spend their resources, has to send sheriff, like Sheriff Hodgson from Bristol, sending people to training, and after that using taxpayer money to enforce immigration.
Because even if someone was, let's do the, for instance, if I were pulled over, I can tell you I've never been once asked about my immigration status.
Yes.
Perhaps you have been, and wouldn't that just be discrimination on the face of it?
Yes, so that's a really good example. There is no reason for any local police officer to ask for immigration status. We do not live in a perfect world. So even in municipalities that the police commissioner may come and say, oh, but we already do that. We don't ask anything. That's a really policy. We want that written down. We want to make it
just so it's crystal
part
clear.
of the system. Yes, no, we don't want any confusion, essentially.
But I could hear people listening to this discussion and say, but wait a minute. If someone is here and they are undocumented, that is a violation of law. Why shouldn't we be policing that?
Well, first of all, being in the country without documents, it's a civil violation. We need to be really clear with it. And I think all this issue it's about criminalizing minorities, criminalizing immigrants. Now we have the Trump administration going to the Supreme Court to try to take away a status for DACA recipients. This is targeted. People are talking about the rule of law and all that. Yes, the rule of law should be that if an immigrant has to go in front of a judge at the border or here in Boston, they should have representation. The U.S. Constitution says that if somebody risks to go to jail, should be able to get a lawyer. But that doesn't apply for immigration court. So you have minors, you have pregnant women going in front of immigration judges without representation, even though opposing counsel is going to be there. The Department of Homeland Security is going to have a fully trained lawyer opposing this minor or this pregnant woman. When we're talking about rule of law, it's really easy to talk about rule of law, but it's really complicated to be able to understand that immigration, the rule of law many times doesn't apply.
I think also when we're looking at this issue of safe cities ordinances, whether it's Greenfield, whether it's Springfield, whether it's Pittsfield, places that have passed it, Northampton's looking at it, right? To me, you're looking at it and there's a states' rights issue and a federal rights issue. And you and I were speaking before we started rolling about how oftentimes conservative people will look at the states' rights and the federal rights issue and say that this is clear cut. The federal government should not be interfering with what's happening at the state level. Is this the flip side of that argument?
Yes, that's a really interesting comment. The fact that we have conservative people in one end saying that the federal government should not intervene in the state businesses and what people do on a state level, but all of a sudden they go around town and around the cities claiming that the federal government should come here. I think that's showing probably one of the worst faces of the U.S. I think that's tainted with racism. I feel that's tainted with taking the humanity away from immigrants and thinking that there is a group of people that deserve more than others. And let me tell you, the ACLU we are there fighting. And we're going to keep fighting because constitutional rights are for everybody, independently you are a citizen or not.
This is, you've been working on this issue sort of city to city, town to town, but also taking it to the state, correct? There's going to be a rally soon at the State House around this issue? That's
correct. So we are working in coalition with other organizations on the Safe Communities Act. The Safe Communities Act it would cover the entire state with pretty much the same policies that we're trying to pass city by city. One of the big decisions that at the ACLU we talked, was that we are not willing to live with the collateral damage of this. We're not gonna wait for legislators to pass the Safe Communities Act. We're gonna fight for that. We're gonna try to pass it. We will pass it eventually. But in the meantime, we're having families being deported. We're having parents of U.S. citizen children being deported. Families being torn apart. And at the ACLU, we're not willing to wait. We're not willing to live with the collateral damage. So we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep going city by city. We're going to keep working with elected officials to keep our families together.